So let's go through it. So today, what we're going to go through is the 20-year challenge. So dropping belly fat, the body fat, and feeling much stronger at in the 40s and beyond. And so what I want to do is just go through myself very simply. I have worked in the finance world, investment world for a decade, and then the rear end of it, that's when I started my own body transformation and I created Fit Exec Life. So this is where I started in Jan 2019, and I went through multi-year body transformation because my thing was that I was always struggling to get the results. I put the effort into the gym, eating healthy, but I didn't get the return on investment as expected, and that left me frustrated. And so once I got my own coach to help me figure out what to be eating, how to be training much better, then I got the results which I wanted, and I've been optimizing that formula of how to get there. And then now this is how I help other men. So just like Sujay, he's the CEO, Samarth, Raj, and all these guys who are many guys based in the US, UK as well. Vishnu based in the UK, Irfan. So all these guys, we've been working together on it might have been a challenge of mine, or it could be in my program or so. We always get the results based around their lifestyle. So the main thing is that this masterclass is for you if you're in your 40s and beyond, if you're frustrated with belly fat or visceral fat, maybe low energy throughout the day, and maybe you've already tried different types of diets. Maybe you tried working with personal trainers or nutritionists, maybe some sort of boot camps, but nothing has really worked, and you're looking for something that fits with your lifestyle instead of you fitting a program. Because I've been there before where people just tell me, hey, listen, eat these foods, do this training, and it's simple as that. But in reality, as I was speaking to somebody just before this, and then you have kids, you've got family responsibilities, you've got work, you've got travel. So how is it that you can optimize your setup so that when you are traveling, when you do have things get in the way, how can you make sure you stay consistent? So for example, instead of a 45-minute workout, can you do a 15-minute workout? And if you don't have 15 minutes to make a meal, do you have a couple of minutes to make a meal? So knowing what to do with that time, what ingredients to have at home, things like this to make the journey easier. And most importantly, how you get these results in the short term is how you keep the results in the long run. So anytime that we do fads like high intensity, or we just keep on like doing keto, things like this, it doesn't stick in the long run unless you can actually stick to it. And as from past experience and from my clients, if we do extremes, it's not sustainable for us in the long run. So as I mentioned, like what doesn't work, I really want to go into this because once we understand mindset wise what doesn't work, we have more capacity to think about what is it that we want to be doing. So firstly, ignoring strength training, especially as we age in our 30s and beyond, we lose muscle mass. And so when we lose muscle mass, our metabolism, which is our body's ability to burn energy, that reduces. We're more likely to hold on to the belly fat. And as South Asian, we're more likely to hold it around the belly because that's how our bodies are made. Uh, this leads to frustration. I know I've been there myself. Try quick fixes before holiday, doing no carbs, low carbs, doing hours of cardio, and this only frustrates the body even more, and that goes into losing more muscle mass. So this is the vicious cycle which can go downwards. The next is extreme diets. So similar to what I just mentioned. So if we go for example, cutting out carbs, which I've done in the past, if you go for really low calories, which I've done in the past, like sub 1000 calories, which just leaves me really weak. Like literally the wind could have blown me over if it was powerful enough. Then what can happen then? We can lead to binge eating because we want to compensate for the lack of food that we have been not eating. And then when we do binge, for example, over the weekend, and then the weight can go up, and then we're in this constant yo-yo of weight goes up, weight goes down, weight goes up, weight goes down, because this quick weight loss will reduce weight, but at the expense of energy levels as well. The next is high intensity workouts. So things like Barry's Boot Camp, Orange Theory. Now, not only will this put stress on the joints, but this also spikes cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone. And the other thing of this is that we're never in control of the weight, because if, for example, we're jumping around and pushing the weight and letting gravity do the hard work, we're leaving half the workout or more on the table. So we want to be doing a specific type of workout, because if we do high intensity, we're not going to be able to recover as properly, because we think we can do so much exercise. This disrupts our sleep. This in sleep is where our muscles recover, where they regrow. And if we're going to lose muscle, this makes it more easier to retain fat. So fat will retain, and then again, it's this cycle. The next is hours of cardio. And I thought that, hey, of course, if I'm going on the treadmill or cycling and I'm just focusing on calorie burn, then that will help me lose the belly fat. Well, that was what I thought, but in fact, it doesn't do that, because what happens is that when we do too much cardio, we will burn those calories. But if we aren't focusing on strength training as well, then that muscle doesn't have a reason to stay. So we're going to lose that muscle. And as I mentioned a few slides ago, we lose muscle, slow metabolism, we get hungrier, we more likely to have the belly fat, and then we try and compensate by doing more cardio. So again, it's this vicious cycle which doesn't get the results that we want. What help me is moving from I need to burn more calories to I need to build more. Because when we realize what the benefits of building muscle is, we build muscle, we boost our metabolism. And remember, metabolism naturally slows down as we age. When we boost our metabolism, we're more likely to reduce that belly fat, as long as we eat in calorie deficit, of course. We're going to feel more energized. We fit into our clothes. We feel more energy, more focused. We spend more quality time with our family as well. If we're present, we feel calmer, and then we're more likely to stay in building muscle mode and maintaining muscle, most importantly. So this is why we are so focused on building muscle and maintaining it as much as we can, because if we don't, then as I've told you, metabolism drops and then everything else drops from there. So what I do with focusing on my clients is we focus on resetting the metabolism. So we focus on four key pillars, which is firstly strength training, and I'll go into this as well, what type of exercises to be focusing on. Secondly is on the nutrition side, so fueling your body, right? Because remember, you're tearing your muscles down at the gym. So when you're eating, you want to be eating enough protein, enough carbohydrates as well, and then enough healthy fats, and then also vegetables as well, which forms a part of carbohydrates. So knowing exactly how to complete your meal. Sleep and stress management. This is important because if our cortisol levels, as I mentioned, are too high, then this means that we're more likely to hold on to that belly fat. And then the most important pillar is accountability and staying consistent. Because whether we're not going to be at home the whole time, 52 weeks out of a year. There's going to be socials, there's going to be business trips, the business socials, there's going to be holidays, there's going to be Diwalis, birthdays, everything, 5-day Indian weddings. So how does it that we stay consistent in the long run? And that's going to be the key to staying in shape. So in terms of what to focus on with the strength training, here are the main things. So vertical push is when we do our shoulders. And again, what I'm going to do is show you where the practicality of all this comes in as well. Because when I'm 80 years old, I still want to be putting a suitcase on top of the plane or the train. Next is horizontal push. So things like bench press, push-ups you can be doing. And again, holding kids around, playing around. Vertical pull. So this is anything to do with the pull down machine. So working out your back and rock climbing. Horizontal pull. So this is everything to do with rows, like pulling the weight towards you in the horizontal position. And yeah, things like tug of row, more of tug of row. Then there's squatting as well. So any leg press squatting movement, this is important. Lunges are important as well. Again, for racket sports, hip hinges are important. So things like deadlifts is with proper form, and then also carrying movements as well. This is for, of course, carrying groceries. So these are the type of movements I want you to remember, take a note of, and making sure you have a complete range of this throughout your workouts in the week. Whether you split it up between upper body, lower body, or you do a full body, or you do a push-pull legs, it doesn't matter, but how you split it up, but making sure that it works with your schedule. Next, then, as I mentioned, is fueling your body right. And naturally, when I work with men, initially the photos which I receive of the initial foods is something like this, which is a whole portion of rice, maybe three, four, five rotis, and then potatoes, a shack over here. And what happens is when you have a meal like this, it's lacking protein and it's carb overload, not just once, not twice, but three times worth of carbs. So something like this is what we would work towards managing in terms of portion control, because this is quite a hefty portion of rice. It's quite a few chapatis, let alone like enough carbs. So we would reduce that. We would if you're vegetarian, then for example, I'd incorporate a high protein Greek yogurt as well. Because if you get 100, 150 grams of this, then you're going to get easily another 10 to 15 grams of protein. And then I'd have a bit of the carbs, the carb portion. So this would be it, the roti and the potatoes. And then I'd make sure I've got some vegetables, maybe some sag over here and some salad as well, taking a big portion of my plate to add some fiber. And then now this is nutritionally complete. It's got some carbs, it's got some protein, and it's got some vegetables. Here's another plate which I've seen very often, which is a whole load of rice and then a whole load of dal. Now dal does contain protein, but it's not the purest and highest portion of protein that you can get. So for this plate over here is very high in carbs, and then also it's a high, it's a larger portion, and it's lacking the pure protein source. So what I would do is focus over here. So I would make sure that the dal is a protein source. So I'd manage that protein and have a little bit of rice because I don't want to over carb load myself. I'd have a portion of the yogurt, the high protein Greek yogurt, to add some more pure protein source. And then I'd have some salad as well on the side. And now this ticks the protein. It's balanced because it's got carbs, protein, and salad. And then also portion control wise, it's more balanced. And using things like these pots over here, this will help you with managing the portion sizes as well. In terms of daily habits, things which you can start to do straight away from this call onwards is, for example, getting sunlight first thing in the morning. This is going to help you reset the circadian rhythm, which is our sleep-wake cycle. Walking 10 minutes after lunch and dinner to help with digestion. Because one of the worst things we can do is have our lunch and then just sit at our desk, and then we can just feel the food just in our body. Now, it's not easily digesting as well as it could if you had a brisk walk after the lunch and dinner. Aiming for an arbitrary number, it could be 10,000, 8,000, 12,000. Picking something which you are comfortable with striving towards, hitting that target for a few weeks, and then upping it by another 5,000. That way, you're having some sort of daily target, and as we're naturally driven by goals. Drinking enough water. This is one thing which I see many men who I speak to under look, and so simply having some sort of bottle near you, or yeah, water bottle, remembering to drink enough water. And how I like to look at it is drinking at least 1 liter before breakfast, ideally, or so ideally 1 liter before lunch, and then another liter before dinner. If you have this, whether it's a liter, half a liter, 700 mils, it doesn't matter what the quantity is, but having these principles in place. Protein with every meal, which I mentioned, so things like eggs, tofu, it could be a protein smoothie for breakfast. For snacks, it could be Greek yogurt. For lunch and dinner, it could be simply batch making some tofu or some paneer, some halloumi, and then having that ready in the daytime. You can just make a quick sandwich or a pita bread wrap or so. One carb portion with each meal. So as you saw in the pictures before, is having rice, dal, potatoes, roti, everything in one meal. that's carb overload, and then our body's eating too many calories, so we're not going to be able to drop that weight. And then also we're lacking the protein, so the workouts which we do, we're not going to get the maximum result from it because our muscles don't have those building blocks. One plate policy. So this is something which I see in terms of managing the portion sizes. What we can do is simply have one plate, and if you want to have a barley plate, then having that to help you even more so with managing the portions. Sleep, wake up, and eat at regular times because our body loves consistency. The more consistent you are at eating and sleeping at the same time, the more the body is going to be working much more efficiently. And the body doesn't know it's weekend or not. So the whole myth around having catching up on sleep, it doesn't. It's false. It's a sunk cost basically. If you have had enough sleep, then great. If you haven't, try and have a nap in the daytime if it is possible. Sleeping more on the weekend won't help with regaining what was lost. Eating and exercising within sleep, what we don't want to do is sleep with a higher heart rate. We want to make sure that our heart rate is calm at least the 2 hours before we go to sleep, because if it is higher, then our body's going to be working overtime, whether to digest the food or to try and lower it after the exercising. And then screen time, if you look at screens before we go to sleep, then what happens is our body thinks it's daytime and it delays the release, or it blocks the release of melatonin, which is our hormone which naturally makes us feel sleepy and ready for sleep. So if we block that, then we may lie down, but then when we lie down, it takes a while for our body to actually register, hey, it's time to sleep because of the melatonin has been blocked. So these are 10 daily habits, which if you just focus on one for the next 7 days and start like literally every week, just focusing on one or two, every 1 or 2 weeks, this is what's going to help you really structure your days and fill it with habits, eating habits, and structuring your day and help you with energy and consistency. And many questions I ask is, does this work for vegetarians? And the answer is yes. I've helped many vegetarians, and this is mainly who I focus on because it's the challenge is how do you get enough protein? What sort of meals do you make? And how do you make it work in the long run, especially when you're traveling, when you're going on holidays? Many places may not have the protein sources like tofu and things. So what is it that you can do to make sure that you are still consistent in the long run? But I work with all these, like these are a few examples of guys who I've helped, and it works for them as long as we put together a program that fits with their lifestyle and what they enjoy. And so it's everything is possible for you. And the top traits of my clients is extremely committed to the health. They communicate openly, and most importantly, they are coachable. So whether you're looking at other trainers or so, nutritionists, trainers, coaches, if these are the top three traits which I see all my clients have. And so if you go in with this attitude, then you're always going to get what you want from your endeavors. Great. So that's what I wanted to go through. And